Hello everyone, my name is Vikas Bhalla. I run the insurance business for EXL. Today we'll be talking to you about XTRAKTO.AI, our AI-driven content extraction engine in EXL, specifically customized for the domain that you are working in. Let me just begin by talking a little bit about EXL. For those of you who don't know about EXL, we are about a 20-year-old company listed at the NASDAQ for the last over 15 years. We're about $1 billion in revenue. In the first 10 years of our evolution, we were focusing largely on operations management, that is running operations for our clients. And that is where we built deep domain expertise. In the next 10 years, we pivoted to also focus on analytics. And in those 10 years, we built a very strong, large, and deep practice in analytics, where we used our analytical capabilities to provide services and products to help our clients take better decisions. Over the years, we have taken this combination of domain experience and analytics and created deep capabilities in digital to help our clients move to the next level. Now, the way we actually offer data analytics and digital capabilities can be broadly divided in two areas or two ways. On the left-hand side is looking at analytics, products or services, largely on a standalone basis. This is where we offer these products and services to help you manage your data better, to help you drive better insights from data that you have by using analytical techniques, and help you to make better decisions. So the whole idea is, how do we actually provide you these analytic services and products and data management capabilities to help make organizations take better decisions? On the right-hand side, which is the relatively newer way of actually offering these services, is embedding these in your operations on a day-to-day basis. So this is all about integrating these capabilities using technology, data capabilities, and analytics with the right domain context in your day-to-day operations, such that we can transform these operations, make them more digital, and re-architect the way that you do your business. Can you move to the next slide, please? If you were to talk about why we think EXL is extremely well suited to be able to provide such data and digital capabilities to you, just clicking on this a little bit more deeper, like I said, the first differentiator is our domain strength and depth. Now, we have over the years chosen to focus only on select domains. As you can see, there are only 4 key domains of insurance, healthcare, banking, and retail and media that we focus on. For example, insurance is close to 50% of our revenues, which means that when we work with you on data and digital, we bring the right context of how to use these techniques to have the most effectiveness. The second is the depth of our analytics, data, and digital services. Now, if you look at EXL at an overall basis, that $1 billion of revenue, about 40% of that actually comes from analytics, data, and digital services for our clients. So we have the scale and the depth in that area. And then finally, if you look at the way that the analysts see EXL in this slide, you'll find that not only do analysts like Gartner and Everest rate us extremely high in the area of data and analytics, but when it comes to specifically embedding these in your day-to-day operations, which is where the core of digital really is, you'll find that we are rated extremely high, as you will actually see from the Forrester survey. If you move to the next slide, please. Just a double click to add a little bit more flesh to what I was talking about. If you look at the insurance domain, you'll find that on the left-hand side of the slide is a very impressive list of clients for insurance. Now, we believe that we are the partner of choice for tier 1 insurance companies globally, and we are fast expanding into the next tiers in insurance to build a strong global presence in the insurance industry. And then on top of that, if you look at the talent that we bring to the table, apart from just the large scale which comes through our operations management business, but then you look at some specific niche areas like 2,500 plus people in analytics and digital, or over 2,000 people with clinical talent, or over 200 people with actuarial, you'll find that this is not only about scale, it's also about depth and expertise which we bring to the table. One of the elements which is not so well known about EXL, at least with some of our newer clients, is the capability we bring on the technology side. Over the years, we have decided to invest either through building or buying technology assets. For example, we have one of the largest installed bases of policy admin platforms of life and annuity in the US. or we have the largest global third-party subrogation engine, or we have advanced AI and ML-driven content extraction engine using the context of domain. And this is what the session is more or less about today. And these technology capabilities, along with our domain capabilities and the talent that we bring to the table, we think have the right combination to help you in your digital pursuits. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ankor Rai, our Chief Digital Officer, to talk about all these elements in a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Vikas. So first, a bit of introduction. As Vikas said, I'm the Chief Digital Officer at EXL. What that really means is our teams are responsible for infusing our clients' enterprise, our clients' processes with AI, with data, with insights, and the cloud. Our teams are responsible for taking these capabilities from the lab, making sure they're deployed in the production environment and actually have the trifecta impact of improving the customer experience, delivering outcomes, and improving efficiency by reducing cost. Today, we're going to focus on XTRAKTO.AI, which is a very specific solution that we're seeing great momentum in the market. And we're working very closely with Abby to take this together to our clients because we feel that the integrated solution has great power. So first, what's the market opportunity? What problem are we actually talking about? Based on your size, a typical 10,000 person insurance company is wasting about $30 million by manually processing content. What that means is when claims come in, when certificate of insurance requests come in, when RFPs come in, there are talented people actually going through those documents, trying to extract pieces of information to help make downstream decisions. We believe that manual effort need not be done and can actually be handled much more effectively by an AI. That's XTRAKTO.AI. It helps eliminate completely the manual effort, but that is just gravy. The real power of the AI solution over here is that whereas a manual solution typically extracted just the number of data fields that you needed, maybe 10, 15, the AI can extract 150 data fields at about the same cost. So really what you're getting is not just cost reduction with XTRAKTO.AI. More importantly, you're getting 10x more data that can power the downstream decisions that you're taking and actually deliver better business outcomes. And finally, there's at least a 2 to 3x increase in speed of processing, which means if you were able to turn around a life insurance application in a week, you could potentially do it in a day, because a lot of the manual effort that was involved in interpreting a physician statement, feeding your mortality models, deciding what the premium was, can actually all be handled by XTRAKTO.AI. On the left side, we've given you an illustration of the variety of different insurance documents that could be handled by XTRAKTO.AI. In reality, this is as relevant for insurance as it is for healthcare, as it is for financial services, as it is for manufacturing. We're focused on the insurance brain and the insurance skills we've built for XTRAKTO.AI today, but in parallel, we have brains across those other industries too. Let's take a step back before we move forward. The evolution of content extraction capability. It really started with centralization. There was a lot of manual activity going on in different markets, in different businesses. Enterprises created these shared services centers, which were still completely manual, but you standardized the activity, you consolidated it, you juiced out all the process improvement you could out of what was still fundamentally a completely manual activity. Then came OCR, and OCR was very, very effective because it removed a portion of the manual effort. Where OCR started falling short in interpreting this manual content was it was great if it was neatly structured content, but if you needed to interpret things, if you looked at a physician statement and you saw that the person had high blood pressure and you needed to interpret from that that this was actually hypertension that should feed a life insurance model, OCR wasn't able to do that. That brought in the next wave of evolution, which is AI, and that's NLP plus machine learning. Over here, not only are we able to extract information that might exist somewhere intelligently, but we're also able to impute things that might not be in a document. As I talked about, if you have high blood pressure or maybe you have hypertension, that's the insurance and the healthcare brain within XTRAKTO.AI figuring it out. As we go through later, this presentation, we're going to talk about how AI is not a magic bullet. I think a lot of the skeptics and the cynics would be very right to say that not all use cases can be completely solved by an AI. It's not like 100% automation. There's going to be an evolution. So let's talk a little about that. As we've worked with our clients, what we've realized is that while a client might have $100 million of waste, you can't just with the flip of a switch remove all the waste. So how do we figure out a roadmap? It's quite a crowded page, but this is very, very important. What we do is within a week, because we understand insurance to such depth, we understand the domain we're working with, even if it's healthcare or financial services with such depth, we know what sort of data our clients are looking for from which document. And we very quickly prioritize that document based on the business value. That is, how important is the data that's being pulled out? Is it okay if we were 80% accurate, or do we need to be 99% accurate or 100% accurate? And we look at the execution complexity. Is this document largely structured? All 10,000 versions of this document look largely the same? Or does the document keep changing? Does it look more like what a doctor's note would look like, which is sometimes the handwriting is not readable, the text is all over the place, and you've got to really have a healthcare professional look at it? Or does it look more like a form, an input form where the data is always in the right place? So we look at execution complexity. And then on the right side, we actually plot all the documents of our client based on execution complexity and the business value that can be generated. And we categorize it into 4 parts. And there is a portion that can be completely automated. We've actually built a lot of insurance skills over the years. And so there are certain documents that we are able to take into Xtrakto and pump clean data out into the client's workflow. That's category A, complete automation. However, there are some where our clients feel that we need a certain amount of human monitoring because they want to be really sure about the quality of what's being put out. And for that, we have a thin human judgment validation layer that sits outside of Xtrakto that makes sure that what is produced, the data that's being produced, is actually clean. So that's AI as assistant. We actually do this very well with underwriters because we extract data out of claims, out of a lot of external documents, and then we provide underwriters a screen to actually look at the data we took out and why we took it, and they can basically quickly validate it. In these, so as compared to complete AI automation, where there is 100% or a 95% automation, AI as assistant is typically about 70 to 80% automation. And then there's partial automation. There are certain cases where they're very hard to execute. Each document looks a little different. It's very hard for the AI to learn immediately. And what we do in these cases is partial automation. We take portions of the document, automate it, and the remaining is still done manually. This depends on the use case, but the amount of automation is about 30 to 40%. And we live in the real world. When we look at certain documents, we call them uniques, and we actually leave them aside, and we don't make them part of the AI roadmap. That will differ from client to client. There's no one answer for this. What we do try to do as part of the Xtrakto solution for uniques is, rather than having the AI process the document, we actually try to go to the source and explore digital disintermediation, which means try to ensure that at source, we actually get the information in structured data rather than having to process it downstream through AI. But there will always be uniques in your environment. Some quick use cases. we work with a life insurance company. I alluded to this one. It took about 7 days to turn around a quote for a life insurance policy because they had to go through these physician statements, which were 150-page documents. They were looking for 8 to 10 features, for example, past diseases you might have had, to enter into the mortality model. We built an AI on our AWS cloud where the physician statements entered the cloud, our AI processed them, and we made available clean data to the underwriters. What we were actually able to do was, in addition to just pulling out those 8 to 10 fields that they wanted, we were actually able to go back and look at 1 million physician statements over the last 8 to 10 years and compare the quality of their mortality models. So we were able to, for example, point out certain features that the mortality models had missed that we could improve it with. So here, XTRAKTO.AI not only brought efficiency, not only reduced turnaround time and improved outcomes, but it actually helped provide more data to improve existing models. The second use case is for a large insurance broker. This is more of an enterprise roadmap. There was over $100 million of waste that we're attacking through XTRAKTO.AI. In this implementation, we're doing it a little differently. Rather than putting it in our cloud, we're building XTRAKTO.AI in the client's cloud. And rather than tackling only 1 or 2 or 3 big use cases, we've actually got a roadmap across the next 18 months of multiple use cases that are going to be moved on XTRAKTO. The last one is a large US healthcare payer. Very interesting example. They didn't do this for efficiency. They won a large contract where they had to process for their members their past claims data. They had to onboard them, but they had to onboard them within a quarter. And in order to typically onboard that volume, they would have needed 300 resources doing that. They came to us for a solution that allowed them to capture revenue quicker. We built our healthcare and insurance combined AI over there to ingest these input forms and to help onboard customers faster. To basically do what would have taken 300 people, the effort, our AI was actually able to do it and deliver over 50% efficiency to our client. And suffice to say, the accuracy was actually equal or sometimes better, because when the manual processing of those documents happens, you sometimes miss a document, you sometimes enter fields wrongly. Over here, the AI actually had very significant accuracy improvements, and the turnaround time was faster. Very quickly, how does this fit into your environment? Abby and in the XTRAKTO solution, we're actually working very closely with the Abby solution combined with EXL's machine learning NLP models. When the data is produced, we enrich it. And the data enrichment means while we might extract 5 fields out of a document, we actually connect to some of the internal databases to validate it. So for example, if you're processing a claim, but you know which customer is sending it, you might have past information that can actually improve the data output. So that's again the analytics and AI in action. Through that, we are then able to figure out if this is a straight-through processing case, which is complete AI automation, or we might need some human workflow while the AI evolves to 100% automation. Finally, the output is clean data, which either gets consumed through RPA or through APIs into the workflow to actually drive the impact. While this might seem like a complicated block diagram, this is really a structure that's ready to use for clients, and it can be consumed as a service through a joint Abby EXL cloud, or we could actually deploy this in the client's cloud. We've talked a lot about how XTRAKTO can change a client's environment, but there are a lot of concerns our clients have had over time. And what we've realized is those concerns are fundamentally because our clients operate in what we would call a FTE operating system, or a human architecture, or a human operating system. When you start operating with AI as an operating system, there are certain concerns that go away. Let me give you an example. A lot of our clients talk about that the manual process is actually with a third-party partner in, say, Asia, and they don't know how to automate it. The beautiful part about XTRAKTO is it sits upstream of your process. So XTRAKTO actually receives the document right from, say, a broker desktop, or right from your customer into your enterprise email box. And Xtrakto produces clean data. So that clean data completely disintermediates the manual process and can enter the application. And oh, by the way, if it did need a little bit of manual process, a significantly lower portion of the volume goes to the your manual process in Asia. So AI as an operating system means the solution is embedded upstream. The second part about it is our customers have concerns that, look, this requires a person who's had 10 years of experience, who has tribal knowledge to be able to process this document. When you leverage AI in decisioning, when you're processing data and you're actually able to, through analytics, connect to data about the past 10 claims that a customer might have made, or data about the customer that might exist in your environment, you don't need a human with tribal knowledge because the AI has already started incorporating that decisioning. And finally, sometimes there is concern that the technology is broken. And as a result, you actually need manual processing to know where to put data. Using RPA, using APIs, we're actually able to automate a lot of that because the AI figures out which queue, which data flow, which workflow the data needs to get into. So that's AI as an operating system. The AI upstream, the AI actually infusing a lot of tribal knowledge into its own decisioning, and the AI figuring out which workflow or queue the data needs to enter into. And last, as we end, how do we actually go about this? It's really a 4-step process. When the ABBY and EXL team start working together with clients, we first do a 1 to 2 week discovery. Discovery is pretty simple. We've got these frameworks. We know the typical documents that exist. We know what the business value is. We know what a roadmap needs to look like. In 1 to 2 weeks, we tune that roadmap that we've built working with tens of hundreds of clients and use cases. We tune it for the client and their specific use cases. Then we do a very quick proof of concept. The proof of concept is not something built in the lab. We take actual documents, we build the AI, and the way to think about building the AI is we already have an insurance brain, we already have insurance skills. We're really in those 4 to 6 weeks tuning the insurance skill for the client's context. This typically requires less than 5% of the documents. In many cases, we've only received 100 documents and have actually built a really good proof of concept. The next stage is scaling. And in scaling, we put the AI into production. It starts processing real documents, pumping out clean data into the workflow. But it takes 3 to 4 months because what we're doing is we put a little bit of a monitoring layer, we test and scale up. And finally, the fourth part. Once you have XTRAKTO.AI deployed in one use case, it's really like that Pac-Man game where it can now go eat all the waste in your enterprise where you're manually processing stuff. Because Xtrakto has already become intelligent about your organization, you can now process new cases onto it on an ongoing basis and eat into that large amount of waste that you might have. The headline that you want to keep in your mind is a 10,000 person insurance company, $30 million of waste. If you're 50,000, that's about $150 million of waste. It's a thumb rule just to figure out and diagnose how much, what is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for you. So with that, I'm going to pause here. Thank you for this time. And on behalf of Vikas, EXL and me, we really appreciate the opportunity to share with you something that we're really passionate about. Our nerdy self at EXL really thinks we built something cool with ABBY that has a lot of potential to change our clients' enterprise.